Hey Ravi, welcome to our first series of Prax Convos. We've obviously been observing live space very closely, and how should companies plan to re-accelerate? Should they look at 20%, 30%, 50% capacity? What parts of their business should they get back to normal first around the workforce, supply chain, operations? How do you think leaders and founders should think about kickstarting business again?
And I think it's something that we're all struggling with at the moment because this is so recent. But I think we have done a lot of thinking around this, and it's probably very, very industry dependent, right? If you're talking about a travel company, the way they restart is going to be very different from say a renovation company. But if I think about live space in particular, I think we'll need to do a few things. So one, I think there is probably a new working norm, which is more remote. But there's a lot that can be done around employee engagement remotely. So how do you ensure that a company culture is maintained and employees remain engaged and excited through a lockdown period? That's one. And I think we've been doing like a few great things. So events, things where people can have, sing-alongs, dances, all sorts of employee engagement. So I think that's one. A second is to make sure that everybody within our ecosystem is ready to run. So you talked a bit about the supply chain. Some of that is to make sure that the supply chain is more diverse, such that if any element of the supply chain suffers, something else is able to pick it up. But it's also about trying to make sure that our partners are protected and that they have predictability in their lives. So if we're able to forecast exactly what demand will look like, and I know it's a really tough problem, but at least we have a hypothesis, then all of the factories, all of the contractors, everybody on our platform is able to plan accordingly. So I think that's the second thing. A third thing, I think it's a great time to make sure there's over communication. So what a business is planning in the next 12 to 18 months, what the vision is and how a business will be impacted by these changes, what this will mean on an individual level for each employee. Any changes that need to be made, I think it's really important that they're made compassionately and with adequate time for people to adjust. So I think in all of these ways, it's important that we're kind of communicating. And I mean, as business leaders, we're all in slightly uncomfortable positions, right? Because we have got competing pressures from both our investors and our employees, and we're responsible to both. But I think finding the right balance is crucial, and as long as that balance is found, I think employees remain engaged and excited by the company.
What do you think, what kind of role should the government and regulatory bodies play in the next 3 to 6 months? How can they sort of create the right architecture and framework so that at least some of the negative effects are overcome and you guys are able to recover faster and get back on track?
Interestingly, I think regulatory bodies, if we look at it in detail, have reacted quite differently. Because if we look at the stimulus packages that say the US Congress has passed or the EU is thinking of passing, they're very, very, very different. Right? They're huge headline amounts, but the way regulatory bodies have chosen to react in terms of either injecting money into the economy or lending significant support to large businesses or lending support to small businesses or lending support to jobs. I think bodies have taken very, very different approaches. I think time will probably tell which approach was best. I think there was a decent conclusion out of the 2008 financial crisis that the EU reacted quite well. But I'm not sure which regulatory approach will be proven most successful this time. I'm quite happy with the way Singapore has reacted. And I think it's done a few things. One, it's by giving significant support to jobs, it's allowed for companies to maintain their workforce and for individuals to maintain their cash flow in what is an extremely difficult time. It's also lent support on a needs basis to the sectors that are most affected. So if I were designing policy, I think the policy I designed would look quite similar to that. But will it be the best approach? I think we'll need to have this discussion in 6 months' time.
And you mentioned about, doing a lot of work from home practices, motivating a lot of your employees. How else have you guys been able to use this time? Have you looked at some of taken some more strategic calls, evaluated some more businesses, did a lot of operational or internal sort of improvements. How have you guys specifically been able to use this time, and what have you done well, and how in this situation?
I think it's a bit shocking for me because while all of my friends seem free, we've been so busy because it's actually a fantastic opportunity to do all of the things that are in a bull market deprioritized, right? In terms of training employees, making sure that processes are rolled out and then followed, implemented well, ensuring that the company is set up well to deal with the next 12 months, making sure that we're set up to deal with a likely change in the economy, making sure that business continues on a remote basis even during this time. All of these are much, much more challenging when you're not actually meeting people day to day. But it's a fantastic opportunity because there's so much more bandwidth during this time to do all of those things. And I think we've actually quite fundamentally restructured the company in this time. And I think we've been using the downtime to do all of these things that we maybe have planned 1 year out or 2 years out. We've reallocated engineering and content bandwidth to kind of create a lot of features faster that will enable this remote working. We've made sure that the operations team has SOPs such that they'll be able to run the moment lockdown ends. We've made sure that the sales team has material to engage customers and is able to design over Zoom. So I think all of these things have been happening. And on one level, I'm slightly sorry that I haven't had a 1 month's holiday, but on another level, I'm really deeply thankful that we've been able to use the time of this crisis to effect all of these changes.
No, that's fantastic. Looks like you guys have geared up well in this time. Anything else, Ravi, you want to add? It's been obviously very interesting to talk to you. Anything else on how businesses should plan to sort of re-accelerate, and any other open-ended thoughts?
No, not really. I think it's like an incredibly challenging time for businesses, and I think we will see the businesses that are most agile and that react best out of this time coming out of the crisis really, really well. So I would expect LiveSpace to do extremely well out of this crisis, and if they're not, then I'm not doing my job in a way. So I think hopefully in 6 to 9 months, the strongest companies will be able to weather this and emerge on the other side significantly stronger than they are now. And I have every confidence that LiveSpace will be one of the companies that manages that. Companies, and I think it's the right time for every leader to prove how agile they are and how great a company culture is to be such that the whole company works together to weather a crisis.
Perfect. So Ravi, thanks again so much for your time. It's been wonderful talking to you like every time. Also, all the best to LiveSpace and the global aspirations. You guys, hopefully the situation recovers soon and you're back on full steam on the growth trajectory that you guys have been. Stay safe. Wish all the best of health to you, your family, friends, colleagues, and thanks again for your time.